Eli Mercer wasn't breathing hard. He wasn't even sweating. Kneeling on a rooftop in South Carolina heat with his rifle disassembled beside him, his wrists in steel cuffs, and 3 officers screaming orders like they were in a war zone, expected panic. Instead, he sat still, head bowed, like he was listening to something they couldn't hear. The city pulsed below, unaware. The sun caught the matte black of his scope like an open eye. And then, right before anyone could ask, the one question that mattered: why was a man like him up there, armed and waiting a black SUV, stopped in the middle of the street? The passenger door opened. No sirens, no agents. Just a tall, lean man in dress blues. Rows of ribbons, 4 stars gleaming. A silence fell. The general didn't blink. He walked past the tape, past the shouting cops, straight to Eli Mercer, saluted. You're not supposed to know who Eli is. But now that you do, you're already too deep. That salute. It wasn't protocol. It was a warning. Because 37 minutes before that rooftop arrest, something happened that's not in any official report. A child 4 years old walked into a precinct 5 blocks away. No adults, no shoes, covered in dry leaves. He walked up to the front desk, tugged the sleeve of Officer Ramirez, and whispered a name. Just one name. Eli Mercer. The problem is, no one had ever told this child that name. And his parents, they've been missing for 12 years, pronounced dead. Case closed. Do you ever have a moment where reality glitches, not breaks, but bends just enough for you to feel the lie? Holding everything together, that's where you are now. Because Eli wasn't aiming at anyone. Not a mayor, not a senator, not even the building. The rifle was pointed west, toward the horizon, toward something coming, and the look in his eyes. It wasn't anger, it was recognition. They dragged him into the back of a squad car. No words, no resistance. But as the door slammed, one of the body cams flickered just for half a second and caught a sound that has since disappeared from the official archive. The general's voice, barely audible. Asterisk, he's not the shooter, he's the signal. Asterisk, there's something they buried 10 years ago under a decommissioned military base in Colorado. Eli's name is on the original security clearance file. Only 2 people ever signed off on it. One is dead. The other just walked back into public view for the first time in 18 years. You'll see him at the end of this footage, watching from the shadows near the barricades. He hasn't aged at all. And the scariest part. Eli said just one thing before they put him in the cruiser. A sentence no one's been able to explain. A name that doesn't exist in any database, registry, or military record. He looked straight into the lens and whispered, asterisk, tell Rowan, it's begun. Asterisk, who the hell is Rowan? And why did every camera, within 3 blocks, cut out the second he said it? They moved Eli Mercer to a holding cell underground. No windows, no clocks, just thick concrete and a faint buzz from a vent that always seemed louder when no one was speaking. Cameras tracked every angle, but none recorded audio, or so they claimed. The footage, when played back later, showed strange compression glitches, like the timeline itself was skipping frames. At precisely 3:12 a.m., Eli stood, looked into the camera, and his mouth moved, silent, when the footage was slowed down. Frame by frame, his lips were saying the same word he whispered on the rooftop. Rohan. But when a technician tried syncing the original video file to a backup drive, they found something else layered beneath an old analog radio broadcast frequency from 1967. That's the first time doubts crept in. Real bone-deep doubts. Not the kind you brush off, but the kind that changed the shape of your life without asking. The audio wasn't clear, but the signal came in through a spectrum gap that hadn't been used in decades. The voice raspy, distant, like someone yelling across water in a storm, kept repeating one sentence in a loop. Asterisk, it begins when the forgotten start to remember. The technician quit the same night, left behind a note that just said, asterisk, check your childhood photos. Count the faces. Asterisk, and here's where the story breaks the part of you that still believes in solid ground. Enter April Lennox. She arrived, in the middle of the 3rd day, wearing an outdated FEMA badge and a sharp gray coat that didn't fit her body or the weather. She wasn't assigned to Eli's case. No one requested her, she just showed up. Carried no briefcase, new codes. No one else did. They let her in, assuming she was from internal. But when they later checked FEMA records, her name came up attached to a relief operation that never happened, Hurricane Isaac, 2012. Officially, April Lennox died during that deployment. Her autopsy is public record, and yet, there she was, asking for Eli by name, calling him asterisk subject Delta. Asking questions no one in the room understood. Asterisk, when was your last auditory displacement? Do you still see the red sky in sleep state recall? Eli didn't respond. He just stared through her like he knew what was behind her wasn't part of this world. Then she pulled out a recorder, clicked it on. The room filled with static. White, blistering noise that didn't just hurt the ears, it made your teeth ache. When she played it back, only one thing could be heard beneath the static. Asterisk, he's remembering too fast. Asterisk, but here's the part that turned everyone sideways. Eli didn't remember anything. He kept repeating. Asterisk, I wasn't aiming at anything. I was waiting. I don't even know who gave me the rifle. Asterisk, they scanned him for drugs, for implants, for any sign of neural interference. Clean, clean, clean. But every time they asked what Rowan meant, he'd just blink like he'd been unplugged from the moment, whispered something about a farmhouse, a red door, or the sound beneath silence. April sat with him for hours after the rest left. Surveillance didn't catch most of it. Camera in that room glitched the entire night, replaced with black frames and distorted timestamps. The only audio retrieved from the session was a few seconds of her voice whispering, asterisk, you don't remember. The burned you. The fire in the field when you were 6. They made you forget. But Rowan didn't. Rowan never forgets. Asterisk, the next morning, Eli started screaming in his sleep. The guards didn't respond. Later, they said they didn't hear anything, said he never made a sound. But the night shift, janitor Gene Harmon quit without giving notice, left behind his walkie on the floor of the East Wing, playing a loop of Eli's voice saying a phrase over and over, words no one had ever heard him say before. Asterisk, Rowan is the mirror. Look away before it sees you. Asterisk, there was a photo. 1. Found tucked in the back pocket of Eli's jeans after his arrest, though multiple searches had cleared him before. Grainy, colorless, a child standing in a field of ash, facing away from the camera. What unsettled the forensic team wasn't the child, it was the shadow behind him. Tall, unnatural, human-shaped, but bent wrong, elbows reversed, head too long, and scrawled across the back of the photo, in perfect block letters, were the words, asterisk, the memory isn't yours. Asterisk, psychologists were brought in. Some said it was a textbook trauma loop. Dissociative identity. War scars from a deployment no one can trace. Others quietly pointed out that Eli's military file had over 40 redacted pages, and every time someone requested clearance to unseal them, the file's location changed servers, at least 5 times. Once to a server that no longer exists. And then, just as the team began piecing together what they thought was a psychological breakdown, the baby spoke again. The same child who'd wandered into the precinct, name still unknown, still unclaimed, it sat silently in state custody for 2 days, didn't respond to stimuli, didn't cry, didn't blink, until 4:04 a.m. when a nurse stepped into the room for a routine check and heard the infant whisper, in a deep adult male voice, asterisk, do not show him mirrors. Rowan lives in reflection. Asterisk, the nurse was later admitted for psychological evaluation. After she claimed to see her own father's face in the baby's eyes, her father died in 1991. Eli was moved. Secret location. Need to know basis. The reason wasn't security, it was because something kept happening when he was around electronics. Phones would dial numbers that weren't saved. Security cameras recorded footage of people not in the room. And worst of all, hard drives stored near him began rewriting their own files, replacing protocols with phrases like, echoes are not echoes, and asterisk, Rowan is the answer behind the question no one asks. Asterisk, April Lennox disappeared the day after she last saw Eli, no records of her leaving. Her badge was found in a locker 4 levels down, in a restricted section not used since 2003. Surveillance showed no one entering or leaving the area for days. But one camera just caught a flicker of movement, a blur in the far end of the hallway. When the footage was enhanced, it showed her standing completely still, eyes wide, mouth moving but no sound. They brought in a lip reader. She was saying the same thing over and over, asterisk, tell them not to remember. Tell them it's safer that way. Asterisk, that was the last confirmed sighting of April Lennox. But someone using her clearance code accessed Eli's file 36 hours later. From a laptop located inside the home of retired Lieutenant General Horace Ryland, the same 4-star who saluted Eli. That laptop was found powered on, with the screen frozen on a single text document. No typing cursor, no menu bar, just 6 words. Asterisk, he never left the field. Horace, asterisk, the kicker. Ryland died 6 years ago. Heart failure. Burial confirmed. Funeral attended. So the question remains, and it's the one you're now stuck with. 2. Is Eli Mercer the start of something unspeakable, or are we watching a man unravel in real time? Scrawled along the bottom, in uneven block letters, greater than asterisk, tell them they're dreaming someone else's life. Asterisk, the deeper force, whatever it is, doesn't show itself in shadows or monsters. It shows up in what should feel safe. Voices that feel like family. Photos that almost match your childhood. Street names you vaguely recall but never visited. A friend you don't remember meeting who knows your middle name. It hides in familiarity. It hides in that exact moment where your brain says, that feels off. And then asterisk, asterisk immediately corrects itself. Asterisk, asterisk, Eli's corrections started to fail. One night he awoke up and found the mirror across from his cot covered in condensation. No one else was in the room. But on the fogged glass, written by a finger, for words. Asterisk, asterisk, stop asking about Rowan. Asterisk, asterisk, and then the water inside his plastic cup boiled. He began sketching lines, diagrams. What appeared to be symbols at first turned out to be floor plans, layouts of a facility no one recognized, but one that someone had drawn before, hidden in a declassified project, echo file from 1978. The document was marked visual residue, evidence collected from a subject who'd experienced nonverbal memory bleed after prolonged electromagnetic exposure. The sketches matched perfectly, room by room. That subject's name, Rohan, but Rowan, they said, never existed. The original file was altered years ago, they claimed, a placeholder name, an alias. But in the original printout, photocopied once, left in a black binder, in a FEMA archive, someone had scrawled something in red pen. Greater than asterisk. Rowan is not the subject. Rowan is the room. Asterisk, and here comes the past. The disturbing event no one connects because it's buried in a different chapter. In a different town, in a year most people forgot. July 1989. Small town outside of Temple, Texas, a school bus goes missing. 14 children, no trace, no ransom. 4 days later, the bus is found submerged in a reservoir 20 miles away, empty, all windows sealed, all seatbelts fastened, no signs of struggle. The only thing inside was a cassette player, still playing static, and a note duct taped to the dashboard. Greater than asterisk, they're not dead. They've just been remembered somewhere else. Asterisk, the driver was never found, but his name was Mercer. Asterisk, asterisk, Paul Mercer. Asterisk, asterisk, Eli's father. No one made the connection. Until now. This isn't about trauma anymore. Not war, not hallucination, not grief. This is about where memory goes when you're not using it. Where time loops back and someone else picks up your past and wears it like a skin. Where a child can speak your secrets before you've learned them. Where photographs lie. Where mirrors breathe. And where the deeper force asterisk, asterisk, unnamed, patient, endless asterisk, asterisk watches from the static. From behind the glass. From the voice on the tape. It has no name because it doesn't need one. And as Eli sits in a new cell, scrubbed clean, handlers wearing new names and new faces, he suddenly looks up and says, asterisk, asterisk, the general never saluted me. Asterisk, asterisk, everyone freezes. Because that changes everything, the whole story, the footage, the moment you believe this began. But go back, rewatch it. The salute, there's no clear shot, only shadows, the reflection of a hand, an assumption. What if no one saluted? What if no one ever did? And what if the story you've been watching, asterisk, asterisk, isn't his? Asterisk, asterisk, it's yours. And something's been remembering you this whole time. Look again. The story didn't start on the rooftop. It started the day you forgot who you were. So the question is, who's remembering you now? They started coming forward, quietly, not with press conferences or headlines, but in whispers behind windows, late-night calls from unlisted numbers, and envelopes slid beneath locked doors. They never used names, never said Rowan out loud, but their stories matched Eli's down to the fine. Terrifying details, shared dreams of the red door, voices beneath silence, memories that didn't belong to them but still knew their deepest fears. One man, a school custodian from Flint, Michigan, hadn't slept in a bed in years because every time he did, he woke up in a different decade. He said the furniture changed first, then the wallpaper, then the people in the photos on his wall. They're not my kids anymore, he told someone on a call that was intercepted but never archived. Asterisk, but they remember me like I left them behind. Asterisk, a woman in Nevada found a VHS tape buried inside a locked drawer that hadn't been opened since she bought the house. No label, just static and the sound of breathing. After 7 minutes, the camera turned, briefly catching her face in the reflection of an unplugged TV. The footage was time-stamped 23 years before she moved in. The unsettling part, she hadn't aged a day in the tape. She hadn't even been born yet. And the symbols started to appear again. Not online, not in graffiti or some cheap ARG, but in reflections mirrors fogged up too fast. Frost forming on the inside of windshields, condensation running upward on apartment windows. A circle, incomplete. A vertical line through the center. A handprint. With too many fingers, people started posting them anonymously with captions like asterisk seen this, and asterisk why do I know this? The subreddit was pulled in under 48 hours. No record of deletion. It simply vanished from the archive. Every user scrubbed. Every IP blocked from re-entry. Those symbols weren't new. They were identical to the ones found carved into the walls of a closed Department of Energy facility near Black Rock, New Mexico, a failed project, they claimed. Signal isolation grid, built in 1991, abandoned within a year. The story went nowhere until leaked floor plans matched Eli's sketches down to room placement and vent configuration. The blueprints were labeled Project Row N only, visible under blacklight. The W was crossed out in pen, as if whoever marked it knew the truth after. The documents had been printed, more than 50 people now, unconnected, unrelated, Yet every single one had either witnessed or survived an event that shouldn't exist, and every single one had been monitored. That's where the observer comes in. You won't find his name on any file, but he's been inside the story longer than Eli, watching, tracking, leaving messages in places no one thought to look. He never contacts directly, never uses tech, but people started finding odd post-its in used books, tucked between chapters that had nothing to do with the plot messages, like asterisk, you were right all along. The fire wasn't the beginning. One woman discovered an 8mm film reel hidden in the lining of a thrifted coat. On it, 8 seconds of footage zoomed in on Eli's face on the rooftop, 12 minutes before the arrest ever occurred. No camera was running at that time. The observer sends no threats, no warnings, only confirmation that what people feel in their bones that itch behind the eyes, the pressure in the skull, the time slips and name confusion and mirror dissonances and psychosis. It's a leak. The truth wasn't erased. It was sealed. And the seal is starting to crack. The observer says there are pockets, places where reality doesn't quite hold. A farmhouse that reappears in different states on the same date every decade. A school in Tennessee where students claim the staff changed overnight, but no adult remembers hiring anyone new. A gas station in Ohio that resets every 30 minutes, products unpurchased. People repeating conversations. The cashier blinking too slowly and always asking asterisk, did you find what you're missing? Instead of asterisk, what you were looking for. Asterisk, the observer warns, don't follow the loops. Trace the overlaps. That's where memory breaks, and something has broken. Not just Eli, not just the others, but the narrative itself, because someone or something has been watching you watch this story. It's in the footage. Backgrounds where faces shouldn't be. Timestamp overlays that don't match lighting. Anomalies that don't glitch, but breathe. When one viewer slowed down the rooftop footage to frame B-frame, they caught a reflection in the glass behind the general. A silhouette, standing still, watching, then gone. No facial features, just asterisk, asterisk, your posture, your outline, asterisk, asterisk, and the more you engage with the story, the more it shifts toward you. You start seeing numbers, repeated, 47, 611, 1989. You hear a frequency. In the static, when you scroll past the footage, you start remembering dreams you never had, but they feel real. And worst of all, you begin to doubt your own origin story. The things you remember feel placed. The things you've forgotten feel important. You hesitate before your own name. You wonder if the mirror's a half second behind. The observer doesn't want to be a savior. He's too far in to be trusted. But he does tell you something buried inside a tape recovered from 2003, never released by the government, marked classified under the same codes as Project Row N. The tape features a group of children being interviewed in what looks like a classroom. They're shown images, symbols, photos of people who don't age. One child looks directly at the camera and says, without being prompted, greater than asterisk, I saw the man again. The one who remembers everyone's name but doesn't have his own. Asterisk, the tape cuts. Abruptly. The last frame is a close-up of the camera lens. Your reflection in it. That's when the question shifts. It's no longer what happened to Eli Mercer. It becomes asterisk, asterisk, when did it happen to you? Asterisk, asterisk, because if you're still here, if you've followed this far, if the symbols are starting to look familiar and the voices in the static feel like something you once heard in a room you can't place, then congratulations, you're part of it. They've been watching you watch it. The memories you can't trace. The dreams you've been having lately. The things you recognize but can't explain. They're not glitches, they're leaks, and something inside you, quiet and persistent, has known all along. So, ask yourself, those weren't accidents. You were right all along. And now that you've remembered, they're remembering you back. Open your phone's camera, look at your eyes, count the reflections. There's a reason one of them isn't blinking, and it's not you anymore. Not entirely. Asterisk.